All right, let's do it. A few people come in the back room. Yes. Listen, every single day I wake up, and as I said this in my other session, and I think to myself, what am I going to build today? What am I going to ship? What kind of value, what kind of cool things do I get to develop, get to put into my applications? When I used to sit down at my computer, I used to think to myself, man, I hope I get through this one ticket today. A lot of fun fixing this one bug. And now I get to say, what do I actually want to work on? What's going to bring me joy? How many things am I going to ship today? That's what I get to ask myself. Because we're in this era in which we can literally do anything, build anything, and ship anything. If we can dream it, we can build it, we can ship it. And I think that is so amazing, while at the same time putting on these guardrails and making sure that I am the one that is in control. Kayla over here is in control of clicking that commit button, clicking that merge button, verifying the code that is there. But instilling these best practices through agent merge, through agent code review, through human code review, I'm able to sit down and ship features faster than ever. I'm also able to build things for myself faster than ever. What I love about software development is that we get to problem solve. And often we get to problem solve for ourselves. It might be like a nasty bug that we ourselves created, right? Some crazy query optimization in EF Core, right? We get to go down, we get to spend time digging into that thing, right? And then we have value that comes out of it. Maybe that query is 10 milliseconds faster, but it brings us so much joy, right? I often build software for myself. And I say, well, I'm solving a problem for myself, and I hope other people like it too. Now what I get to do is not just build that software for myself, but I then get to collaborate with my customers, with the people that are downloading and installing my app faster and in more real time more than ever. And it's not just me, little solo developer here, even though I work at Microsoft, things that I do outside. It is all of us here at Microsoft in the industry building and shipping together faster than ever. And I just had a .NET MAUI presentation, and I love what the team is building because I never thought in my mind that I'd be able to sit down and have something, some agent visually inspect, self-correct, fix, and find all the little UI tweaks because it can see into my application. In 15 years of doing that, I never thought that was possible, and it delighted me. It means that I can sit down, ship things for myself. And what I find myself often doing is building little tiny tools. Scott Hanselman has a website, tinytooltown.com. It's like GeoCities, if you remember that, but for tiny tools that we build. And this year, I might be the #1 contributor. Do we got to go to it? Let's Tiny Tool Town it up. I don't know if anyone beat me. Tiny Tool Town, Tiny Tool Town. There's me. I queried myself. Great. Perfect. I go to author. This is Tiny Tool Town. It's beautiful. This, better. Cool. Tiny Tool Town is the best tools to be towning in all the time. And there's all sorts of tiny tools that we can just build. Like Scott's building tools, you're building tools, I'm building tools. Let's author it. Boom, look at that. So many tools. You can't read that. Let's just go back to normal light mode. There it is. Look at that. More tiny tools than Scott Hanselman. Who would have thought? I'm sitting here every single day, and I am just loving building tiny tools for myself. I have Tiny Clips. It's a little application. What am I doing? It's an app. I just like shipping apps, building stuff. I'm taking screenshots. I'm building GIFs. I'm doing stuff on Mac, on Windows. I'm over here. I'm making mermaid diagrams. I'm converting things locally. I'm doing giveaways. This is my favorite, pdfdiff.com. We're doing some construction in our house. How many people love reading contracts and especially different versions of contracts? Boom, PDF diff. 2 different PDFs. What's the difference? Just go here. It's in your browser. Listen, half the time I build software because I hate downloading other apps because I don't know what they're doing with my data. I want my own data. Now, what's really cool about modern day is that we just can't not only build these apps, we can now infuse these little tiny applications with AI in seconds. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I absolutely love it because we can do it on device, we can do it in the cloud, and we can do it with the same subscription that we use with coding. I'm James Montemagno. I love everything about software development. I love building tiny tools. I've been doing it for 15 years. I love it. I work here at Microsoft, doing developer relations, working with the engineering team, shipping tiny tools all the time. And with me, as always, is Kayla.
Hey.
I'm going to shift.
Let me shift. Hello, if you didn't see me back there. I'm Kayla. I'm on James's team doing DevRel. But before doing DevRel, I was PM for Windows Terminal, so I'm not shipping tiny tools. I'm shipping larger tools that people use every day. So that's my jam. Love terminal. Heck yeah.
And tiny tools inside the terminal.
Yes. I don't have any though, but
Not yet.
not yet. I really want to put Jimothy in my terminal, I'm not gonna lie. Yes. And there's Sixel support, so it should just work, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm doing this later. So
Tomorrow. Perfect.
maybe tomorrow.
Jiminy, you know that? Jon Stewart likes it.
Okay, cool.
Jon Stewart approved. Yes.
Sweet.
So the opening here on the slide says James to open with a cool story. So hopefully it was okay. It was inspirational.
Yeah, PDF diff really is life-changing to be.
You got PDFs, you got to diff them. That's why it's just. What are we going to talk about today, Kayla?
So today we are covering Copilot SDK. So how many folks have been using Copilot?
Like to code.
Just to code with. Okay, nice. Okay,
How many
cool.
like our quads or the codecs or all the things? Yeah, who's not? No, don't do that. So, who's starting their journey on AI? Like maybe like you're just dabbling today. A few of you. Perfect. Every day I'm dabbling. That's right. Every day there's something new. It's different tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's why I was up till 1 o'clock. I was like, everything's different. I got to redo my whole talk.
That's true. That's true.
Cool.
Cool. So, and then how many folks are trying to infuse AI into their apps? Maybe with Copilot SDK, Foundry, Bedrock. Okay, so a few people. So that's kind of what we're covering today. So Copilot SDK lets you do that. So we're going to talk about what is it, and then we're going to show you how you can build and deploy with it. And then we'll talk about some of the advanced features that are coming or that are already here and that are new. And then we're just going to close it out, have some links for y'all to check out, and then you can try building yourself.
Yeah. Now, the first thing that we would say is like, what is the Copilot SDK? Well, the team here at Microsoft and GitHub have been building is this agentic harness. And you hear this word harness all the time. And you can think of it as the main loop that you're interacting with, the thing that understands how to interact with the models, how to interact with the tools, and all the different integrations around it. What the team decided to do is build an SDK to help you put an agent inside of every single one of your applications. It enables you to integrate the same exact harness that powers GitHub Copilot into your own apps and services, which is kind of astonishing to do.
And you might be wondering, what's Copilot? What comes with Copilot? How do I get Copilot? So it's all part of your GitHub Copilot subscription. It's one subscription, but it's available everywhere Copilot is. So that's going to be on like github.com, the mobile app, different IDEs, in the CLI, the new GitHub Copilot app, and then also in the SDK. And as James mentioned, it's all running on that same harness. So wherever there's any features like tools and MCP server connectivity, custom agents, all of the different models that Copilot provides, it's all available with the SDK, and you can infuse that into your app that way.
Yeah, and GitHub Copilot is used by 50 million developers every single day. So when we talk about like being battle tested, we'll also talk about a little bit more here. Like it's used every single day by millions upon millions of developers.
And so one of the newest places where we've been putting Copilot, which is powered by Copilot SDK under the hood, is the GitHub Copilot app. Do you want to hit the button again? It's a video.
Video?
Heck yeah, look, yeah.
Wow.
So when it comes to thinking about working with agents, there's the IDE first or code first, and that's your VS Code. But then there's also your agent first, and then that's how we've come about the Copilot app. So you can manage all of your sessions from here across all of your different repositories that are on GitHub. So if you're someone who's actively on GitHub all the time, you have a bunch of different repos, it's a really great way for managing all of those. Plus, if you start any sessions in CLI or VS Code, but then you want to move to a different UI that's a little bit more comfortable, you can just take those sessions with you. Everything carries over. And then again, it's got all of those different models from all the different providers that Copilot works with, like Anthropic and OpenAI, and the Kimi models are there. MAI Code 1 Flash from Microsoft is there. There's a whole bunch of different models you can play with too. So it's not only in the GitHub Copilot app, which is the newest experience, it's everywhere else you could think of where you're working on code. So it's going to be obviously on github.com. It's in your IDEs like VS Code, and also IDEs like JetBrains and Eclipse and all of those. In the terminal, heck yeah, Copilot CLI. And then also we put it in Slack and Teams as well, because not only as developers are we writing code, we also have to work on a team and collaborate with each other. So it's easier to have an agent there to help you out along the way. And then of course, in Azure and Linear and Jira too.
And one of the most beautiful parts about this is that, yes, you have access to all these frontier models from all these frontier companies, including ourselves, but you also have access to bring your own key. So if you want to use your own model that your company developed, rad. you want to use OpenRouter to like use any of these models out there, you can do that. Foundry local. You can run models locally on your device. So if you want to run something like a Quen model locally, you can do that through Ollama or Foundry local. That's all available. And the goal here of all of this is not just to have Copilot everywhere, but to have the same experience everywhere too. And then have the sort of interface drive unique experiences. Kayla talked about code first versus agent first. The GitHub Copilot app is an agent first approach, enabling me to manage multiple sessions across repos where I spend most of my time, 90% of my time. When I want to dive deep into the code, connect up to certain services, invest my database, I'm in VS Code, or I'm doing deep profiling and debugging in Visual Studio 2026. If I'm doing Swift development, I have to do quite a lot of deep debugging inside of Xcode, and GitHub Copilot's there for me. So what this means is that that same exact agent harness powered by the SDK is powering all of these experiences or near all of these experiences, and if not all of them in the near future. And it's actually gone on this journey. The SDK started by needing a way to bring a harness to the cloud agent. So you can go on github.com or the GitHub mobile app, and you can just tell the agent to do something. It'll spit up an environment, and it'll get to work for you automatically. I do this all the time as I'm waiting for Kayla to come to our one-on-one meetings. I'm like, I need something to do. I open my phone, boom, I'm good to go. And I have something done by the end of our one-on-one for me to review. It then took the journey into the CLI. So the SDK powers the CLI, which is now used by hundreds of thousands of developers around the globe. And then we brought that same experience now into VS Code, the GitHub Copilot, Visual Studio, IntelliJ, and a lot more. Some of these are in preview. So if you go into Visual Studio 2026, you'll see Agent Preview. That's this. If you go into Visual Studio Code, you'll see Copilot Agent Harness instead of local. That is this, being powered by the same experience. What that means is that us as a team not only get to work on one amazing, beautiful agentic harness that gives you the same experience across the board, it means that we can ship features faster, not only in our products, but to all of you through the SDK. And it's not just GitHub Copilot that is being powered by the Copilot SDK, it is teams across Microsoft that are integrating it into their applications. Things like the Azure CLI, Copilot Studio, Defender, SharePoint, Power BI, Foundry itself, Teams, Office, Windows itself. It's the same harness. We've standardized on creating a single agent harness across the board. And you may have seen some of these experiences, like Cowork, for example, which I use every single day for my M365 work, powered by the Copilot SDK. Office, Excel, it is absolutely beautiful. It's like if you've not used it in the last month, oh my gosh, I literally took PDF from one of these contracts and I had this crazy, terrible table. I was like, all this stuff. And I was like, put it in this thing. And I was like, it did it. It did it. And then I was like, now color shade it. And it was like, I got you. I was like, do this advanced math. I'm like, write a Python script. It's like, cool, let's do it. It was mind blowing. So cool. The best part about all this is that it's generally available. I'm not going to come to VS Live and Enterprise and be like, hey, you're seeing preview experimental. No, GA, we ship it. It's in the box. Get 1.0. We shipped it a build. Now, on top of that, Kayla, you see that coffee's kicking in. It's available in 6 different programming languages, including .NET. So no matter what you're building in, there's an SDK probably readily available for you. TypeScript, JavaScript, Python, .NET, Go, Java, Rust, all the things. Boom, which is cool. Now, what's really cool about this is that the Java and Rust SDKs are actually community driven. Actually, Bruno from our team did the Java one. He was so like, I need Java. He's a Java guy. And he took and built these agentic workflows through GitHub Copilot to have GitHub Copilot write and maintain the Java and Rust SDKs. Mind-blowing. Super cool. Now, that's a little bit about it, but what's actually in it?
So when you add the Copilot SDK into your app, it's using Copilot itself. So here's a bunch of things that Copilot can do. And this isn't even everything. This is just whatever we could fit on this slide. So anything here you can build in your app as well. So that's going to be that interactive assistance. If you want to have an agent that you can work back and forth with, it can write code for you. It can modify your code right in the app as well. It's aware of all the files in your repo. You can use the different modes like plan mode or autopilot. And you could also have remote sessions, automation. There's the tool calls of writing to files, looking up things on the web, using MCP servers. You can hook all of that in. You can BYOK, so you can bring your own model, run the whole thing locally entirely on your machine. You don't even need to go to the web if you have a local model. And then there's also all of the AI standards like skills and agents and custom instructions. You can build all those in, and it's all part of Copilot, which means it's part of the Copilot SDK as well. And so it works in pretty much any environment you could think of. So we talked about local, especially if you have BYOK, that's like super local, like there's nothing leaving your machine. You can embed it into your applications. You can put it in the cloud. You can put it in an air-gapped cloud. So if you need something for the government or anything that's more secure, that's a great place to put it. And there's also support for private VNets or even multi-tenant services too. So it really works just about anywhere you can think of, which is great. And some ideas that you might want to think of, or like things that the team has already started building, are browser use plugins where you can integrate it directly into the browser. There's also custom Office plugins that you can build. So Excel has some really great integration with Copilot, but you can even just build a custom plugin if you wanted to do even more in Office. Or if you just wanted to add a simple chat interface to an app. Like I think the other day I was working on my gardening app and I was like, oh, it'd be great if I just had a little chat with my agent because my tomatoes turned yellow overnight or something. So you can have different chat interfaces as well built right into your app if you want to.
So that's what we often will talk about, like code, right? Because we're using Copilot for coding. So when you think of like Copilot SDK, you can truly use it for anything. I'm going to talk a lot about like podcasting because I do a lot of podcasting. So I've been trying to automate my podcast flow to save me time where I used to spend hours every single week. Now I can spend minutes every single week leveraging Copilot SDK and AI to do it. So we're over here. It was very exciting. This is very short-lived, but there's a pancake because we shipped stacked PRs. This is a very exciting feature. We put a pancake on GitHub.com. Stacked PRs, that has nothing to do with the Copilot SDK, but that happened at 9 o'clock, which is why I was terrified because we were doing tons of rollout at 9 o'clock during my last session. But if you don't know what stacked PRs are, you can now break your PRs into smaller things that stack on top of themselves. One of the most highly requested features on GitHub, and it's now in GitHub.com, and it's in all of our agents. Very cool. Anyways, the GitHub Copilot SDK is also if you update the Copilot app, the minigame now features pancake stacking. So, anyways, I don't know if it's live yet, but it should be. I coded that last night on the plane. So the Copilot SDK is open source, which is like actually really important because we build in the open. So you can actually see a lot of the things that we're doing, just like we build VS Code in the open, but a lot of our stuff in the open in general. It's on github.com/github/Copilot SDK. It's right there, which is super duper cool. We have a workshop tomorrow on Copilot. We're going to be talking about it. It's there, and you can get access here. If you're looking to just get started, there's these guides and cookbooks, basically. I'm getting started on any of the different programming languages. So interested in .NET, which I assume most of you are. That's what we're going to code in today. There's like a cookbook here. It shows you like how to do error handling, for example, multi-sessions, because you have multiple things going on, working with local files, persisting sessions, and doing a lot more, which is really cool. So there's a nice little cookbook so you can kind of like go and like browse through basically. And John looked like he updated that last, so that's kind of cool. Shows you everything. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and build something. So I'm going to show a few different examples, but I pretty much have over here a very simple project. It's called the Copilot SDK Live Demo because it's a demo that's live. And it's very, very simple. We're going to walk through it. So the first thing that I have here is I've just added the Copilot SDK NuGet package. And this is just a command line application. I'm really big in the command line.
As you should be.
As I should be. Love the CLI. It's a place that I live 0% of my time. Kayla, 100%. James, 0%.
Yeah.
GUI, 2E. Terminal UI.
Yep.
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 All right. And then I have a program CS, and it does nothing. It just has some stubs that we're going to fill in right now. So the first thing is once I have the Copilot SDK, I can say using github.copilot. So I have access to things inside of the Copilot SDK. Now, once I have that, I am able to, for example, spin up a new client. So here I'm just going to say new Copilot client. There we go. And I'm going to, because I'm actually going to type all of this code, I'm going to go down here, boop, and I'm going to do snooze. I'm going to snooze it up. Okay. So once we have our client there, I can then go ahead and start it. So I'm going to say await client dot. I'm going to say start async. There we go. Perfect. So I'm just going to start a new client basically up, just like on this session. So you can imagine if you're on a server, you get an API call, boom, I'm going to spin up a client. This client's going to be for the life of the session, basically. Well, or multiple sessions. A client can have multiple sessions that it spins up, and you can persist those sessions, just like if you were starting a new chat inside of VS Code, for example. You can think of all of these things over here as sessions. In fact, you can see me testing it 1 day ago. These are all sessions that we're going to start, and they're going to show up here because
It's all the same.
it's all the same.
It's all the same harness.
And you can specify different attributes so they only show up inside of your application and things like that too, obviously. Now we're going to check the authentication. So right now it's false. So that's not super ideal. Actually, I'm going to switch over to my .NET profile because I need the C# dev kit. Or else I'm not going to get any IntelliSense, and that would be a bummer. So we're good. Okay. So I'm going to go in, and now if I do client dot, oh wait, come on, IntelliSense, look at it load. There we go. Whew. What am I going to do without a dot? No, I just give up. I mean, I have it all printed out here because that's how I code now. I'm like, what am I doing? Perfect. Okay. So here I can do a bunch of stuff. So I can create a session. I can delete a session. I can get authentication status. I can get different IDs. I can get like whatever the last session was. I can get the session metadata. Basically, there's a whole bunch of things. List models, list the sessions that I have. I can ping it. So I just make sure it's alive, basically. Start, stop. I can do all these things just like I started there, which is very cool. So I'm going to say get auth status async. And I'm going to go ahead and see what I get back here, which is my auth type and if I am authenticated. Else I can force a login. Now, how this is going to work is that I have the Copilot CLI installed on my machine and I am authenticated. Okay, so if I go over into the intelligent terminal, which also is powered by GitHub Copilot, there's an agent down here sneaking around, but I could do Copilot. That's how you launch the CLI. I get my stuff here, and if I do slash user, boop, I'm logged in. Cool. Now, if I didn't have the Copilot CLI and I ran this application, it would install the CLI for me, and I'd go through an auth flow and that whole jazz automatically. Now, out of the box, it's just going to use my GitHub authentication, but I can configure custom authentication if I want to for your company or whatever. It's more complex. We're not going to go into it. But that's how this is running under the hood. Okay, cool. So far, I'm authenticated, 3 lines of code, started up, bingo, bango. I love it. Okay, so now we're going to create a session. So here, I can do a new session over here. So I can say, oh, wait, and I'm going to do client dot create session async. And this is going to take in a new, I'm going to do it on a new line here, new session config. Boom. All right. And the session config enables me to do a bunch of customizations, just like you may have inside of GitHub Copilot. So what the agent is, what available tools are, if I want it to be cloud enabled in a remote configuration, all the stuff that Kayla was talking about. If I want to enable or disable skills, if I want to enable hooks, if I want to enable MCP servers, basically anything is available to me. Here I can do the GitHub token. If this was on a server, I just have a single GitHub token, so I wouldn't even need to log in. There's all these different events that I can loop into basically there. But I can set the model, and I'm going to set it equal to my model, which I've identified here just as GPT-5 Mini. But I'm going to show you that you can use a bunch of different models. And then I'm going to turn on streaming to true. And this is nice because if you want it to basically, stream like a chat, it can stream back it, or it can one-shot the response back to you. That's it. So that's all it takes to create a session. Very straightforward. And then I'm not going to write this code, but basically you have events on this session that you subscribe to. So here, for example, when a delta or something comes in from that stream, the response, it's going to go ahead and give me the delta, so that the change between the last and the current one. So it's going to stream in. If I'm doing tool calling, it's going to tell me that a tool call started or stopped. A tool call would be like, I'm reading a file, I'm making a web request, for example. If there's an error and then there's an idle, and an idle session event is that it's completed. It's done, basically. And I could restart it back up. So that's what those are doing. I'm just doing a console write line there. And here I'm just going to tell you what model you're using, even though it's hard-coded. It's good to go. And now all we need to do is just send something to said model or to said session. So I'm going to say session dot. And now on the session itself, I'm able to configure different events. I can do different logging. I can open canvases. I can basically do a bunch of stuff inside of here. But I can also send and wait async. We're just going to wait for it to be kind of done, or just do send async. I can also change the model mid-session. So if I wanted to change around and switch from different models, I could do that. Perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and, I wish there was a, I guess I don't even need to open that because it's right here. More snoozing. Look at it, it's got a little Z sleeping down there. That's cute. I'm going to say new message options. And then all I need to do is send in a prompt. So what am I going to like tell it to do? And we're going to say, hello world. I'm going to say in 2 sentences, say what the Copilot SDK helps .NET app to do. Right. And then I'm going to go ahead and close that off. Perfect. And then I'm just going to go ahead and run it. I'm going to go to my terminal. Okay. I'm going to clear out the history. Perfect. And where am I? Perfect. I'm going to do CD samples, Copilot SDK. I'm going to do .NET run. And now it's going to compile it up. And then it is going to go off. So it's like just making sure that it's doing stuff. It is then going to go ahead and check my authentication status. So I'm authenticated. It says I'm using GPT-5.4 Mini. And boom, it just went and did stuff. Copilot SDK helps out in applications, connect to AI-powered features, blah, 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 blah. Cool. But I can tell it to do something else a little bit more descriptive. That's cool AI in like 5 seconds. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to say, go ahead and check GitHub and web for detailed information. Cool. And I'm going to go ahead and run that again. Cool. And now this should check our authentication status. Still using GPT-5.4 Mini. Dope. And now if it is doing what I want it to do, cool. It's doing a bunch of tool calling. I told it specifically to go check stuff, and built into the SDK are tools automatically. I called DuckDuckGo. That's hilarious. I love it. So here, this is pretty cool. It actually made a tool call to fetch. It actually did a few things. It actually ran a PowerShell script to actually search through the GitHub CLI because it knows it has it installed for the SDK. It checked for the GitHub Copilot GitHub repo. It checked DuckDuckGo. It ran some more PowerShell scripts. It ran RG. It globbed a bunch of files, and then it returned it back to me, right? So I could do this. So then I could say, okay, go gather this information, generate a report for me, and then go do X, Y, Z, blah, 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 right? So I can go and do this. I can improve this, right? So by default, it's not really, it may decide or may not decide to make tool calls, but here I've told it explicitly to go do it. And these tools are built in to run common things like commands that are there. Now you can allow or deny these calls too. It's up to you, as much or as little as you want to do. Okay, so it's very, very simple. Let's do something a little bit more meaningful. I was talking about podcasting. So one thing that I wanted to do is I have my podcast, Merge Conflict, just like self-promotion here. And we're only been going for 525 episodes there. And you can see I just switched completely to AI art, basically. But every time I make a podcast, and Frank and I do, I need to like generate social tweets and do all this stuff. It takes time. I thought it'd be cool is like, what if I was able to just create a tool really quick that could understand my podcast, go find the latest episode and generate maybe a social promotion tweet or something I could share with brand, for example. So what I've done over here is clear this out. Go and shrink this down. Is I'm going to go ahead and enrich this application basically. So here, instead of just going and creating a session, I'm going to expose some more information to this model. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to improve the model that I pick, which is a little terrifying because who knows what's going to come up in my picker. But Caitlin will blur it out. Perfect. That's great. So I created this little thing called model selector, and I just did it to save time. And the only thing that it's doing is it is going through and it's calling client.listModels async, which is models that are accessible to me as a person, basically, on my subscription, anything local that's there. And then I'm just iterating through it. I don't know, Copilot wrote it. It's just going to go and list all of them and allow me to pick one. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say var model equals, and then I'm going to go ahead and say, actually, I can just change this from a const, there we go, to a normal. So I'm going to say model equals a weight, and then I'm going to say model, perfect. Model selector, yep. And then I'm going to bring in my helpers, cool. That one was a little bit nifty to go ahead and do. So then I have this model here. So now if I run this again, don't dox me too hard. Cool. So I can see that I have all my Opus models, GPT models in here, Kimi models, things like that. So an auto mode too. So if I wanted to do like, let's say a really expensive soul call, let's just go ahead and do that. And now I'm going to go ahead and specify the model that I want here. And this is now going to go off and then call into that model here. Now this is doing a bunch of calls. It's probably going to take it's actually really quick. So it decided to just go do this thing and it generated it back for me. So I'm in control of the models, right? That's important. Okay, we have our model selector. Now, the other thing that I want to do is get some information. So I've created a few other things over here. Like I have this model selector or episode selector. And what this does here is it goes off and oh wait, where's my merge conflict tool? Sorry, I created a bunch of tools for merge conflict. So if I was really developing here, here's my RSS feed. And we're going to create a bunch of tools just like that web request tool, or for example, that grepping tool or terminal tools that we can expose. So here I'm going to say, I'm going to expose a tool to the model called get merge conflict episode. And then I'm going to give another one here, which is get latest merge conflict episode. And I give it a description here. So this gets the latest, or gets a specific episode based on the number that's passed in. And then here, this gets the 10 newest merge conflict episodes. And all this is doing is basically defining an AI function that's part of the SDK. And I give it a description, so it would know to look at it. And I give it a name. And then I give it what to do. So this is just going to call get async, and this is going to call get latest. And it just goes off and it goes and calls my RSS feed, parses it, blah, 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 boring. But I've exposed basically new functionality to the AI model. So it can call in to code that I'm generating for it, which is really, really cool. And then because I want maybe to select my own episode myself, like when I start the application, just like I picked a model, I literally just did a little thing called like pick a model basically, or pick an episode, and it'll return the episode. So I'd be like, oh, I want to work on episode 520, do that. Cool. So we're going to go back over here. And what I'm going to do is after I authenticate, after I pick my model, before I do anything else, I'm going to go ahead and say var latest episodes. And then I'm going to bring in that namespace. Cool. So I'm going to say just so I have it in memory, just like if you had data, right? I have that. I'm going to say var selected episode. And I'm going to say pick an episode. So I have the episodes. Let's go ahead and pick an episode. And then I'm just going to say var selected episode number and just save that here. So I can go ahead and feed that into the model later. So it might call it. So that's all I'm going to do there. So nothing else has changed. I'm just loading some data up and picking the episode I want to work on. So now what we want to do is give this some tools. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say var, I'm going to say episode tool, and then I'm going to call that tool that returns back the AI function. So if we look again in here and go to definition, we can see that this is just going to expose this tool. So now the model will have access to this tool and can decide to call into it if it decides to. So there's that one, and I'm going to say var latest episode tool, and then get that latest episode back there. Cool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do a few things is because there's doing tool calls, we may want to have an approval process. So what I've created here is a permission prompt. And if you remember, it just called those tools. And that's because by default, it's just allow all tools that are on. But we can actually give it a function to call to approve or deny tools, tool calling. So here I created a request async that takes in a permission request. And then I'm just making sure that it is a permission, a custom tool. And then what I'm going to do is just, say yes or no, basically, in the CLI, or allow it or deny it and return that back. And I can give a decision of approve once, approve always, reject XYZ, and then do that, which is nice. Cool. So I can come in and just like I was streaming, I'm going to say permission callback. Oh, sorry, not on that, on permission prompt. There we go. And, on permission request. Just normal IntelliSense, why not? And then I'm going to give it that method to call. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a set of tools. So I'm just going to give it this new array over here of the tools that we want to have access to. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the system prompt. So this is actually pretty cool. Sorry, not system prompt, the system message. Wow, I just filled in a whole thing. System message, there we go. And there's going to be a new system message config. Perfect. Awesome. So by default, Copilot out of the box just uses the default system prompt and system message that the team set up. But you can override this. So you can set the mode. So here I can say, I want to append something. I want to replace it. I want to customize the system prompt. I'm going to go ahead and replace it. So basically I'm turning it into my own agent. So I'm going to tell it exactly what it is. And then, sure, I'm just going to accept whatever Copilot says, that I'm a helpful assistant that can answer questions about Merge Conflict podcasts. You have access to a tool that can look up episodes by number or get the latest episodes. I'm sure I looked at my script, so perfect. So that's the system prompt. I'm giving it that mindset, right? So you've seen any Microsoft framework stuff, very similar here, which is kind of cool. Now, the last thing we need to do is just update this message that we send. So I'm going to actually copy and paste this over here, just because I'm a little lazy. I'm going to replace this prompt with a bigger prompt. There we go. Boop. Cool. All right. So this prompt says, explicitly telling it to use a tool, which you can do. It could also guess, but I'm going to be explicit. For the selected episode, return exactly a social headline and a sponsor-safe post under 280 characters. Use only facts returned by the tool. Don't invent anything. Sponsors, topics, links. Don't get crazy, Copilot. In general. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and run this again. Boop. Cool. And now we'll see the hello world again. All right. And now I'm going to pick a model. I'm going to pick a small model. I'll pick Luna. That's good. And here it went and it got those episodes back for us. So we can see these are the episodes that I had most recently. So let's talk about number 2 here, which is actually 524, but it knows. It's smart because I coded it. And now what it's going to do is going to use that context, use this model, and now go generate something specifically for me. It went off and it started a tool call. It's like, I want to call this thing. Do you approve it? I do. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and return this back to me automatically. So now it's going to go and then stream in these results based on this context. It's going to do some tool calling, social headline, Dynamics AI Evolution. And it's using the information here from that automatically to populate a social tweet back, including the URL of the episode automatically, right? So literally in just a few minutes, I exposed some of my data, which is from my podcast, directly into the model, leveraging the models that I have access to, using the AI credits that I have access to. That's what it's leveraging. And then going off and having it call special tools to go get information about that model and then craft, or about that episode, and then craft things that I want in my application, which is super cool. And kind of did that in just a few minutes, which is quite nice. Cool. That's kind of a TLDR crash course on like walking through building up something, not too complex, but at least a little bit more than just hello world. Now, what's interesting here is what I showed was sort of this sort of direct execution mode of the Copilot SDK. So I have the runtime running on my machine, the SDK is running on my machine, I'm creating sessions, I'm calling tools, all locally. The tools are doing what they're doing. But you can actually do a lot of different things, even on your local machine. You can create container per session isolation. So you could spin up a full container to run your tools in. So if you want it to be nice and safe, for example, and you could run that like in a Docker container, for example, maybe, or anything you want, and run that agent there. So it's super isolated, not on your machine. But we also have an OS managed sandbox that's built in. And that enables you to still run your tools, but also run different tool calls into a sandbox on the hosted operating system. So for example, if I want to do network access and starting running it on your local machine, it will run inside a sandbox. And the same thing with the file system. And you can have fine-grained controls. And that's because we launch in preview at build the MXC sandbox, which is a lightweight container for sandboxing across Windows, Mac, and Linux. So basically, you think that each agent session or tool call can get its own sandbox with file system, network, or process access and isolation. And in fact, this is a lot of how OpenClaw like runs, and we showed that off. Scott showed that off at Build, which is really, really cool. And this is included in the box, so you can just say put it in a sandbox, and it'll just do its thing, which is really cool. And it runs like natively on Windows, and it's really fine-grained control. So for example, if you're an IT admin, for example, not me, but you can basically write this sandbox configuration for your agents. So you can say, I want access to only rewrite. What paths? What are my deny paths? Like maybe don't RF everything. I don't know, is that it's
Maybe
RF?
not.
Oh yeah, right. So you could disallow that, right? It's not going to, but maybe. But you can even sandbox MCPs and LSP servers automatically. So basically you give this fine-grained control over everything inside the SDK.
And it doesn't only run locally, which is what James has been showing pretty much for the whole session today, but it can also run remotely and then connect to your remote servers as well. So if your data's up in the cloud and you want to have an agent running up there, you can hook up the SDK to do that as well. So you can do local and remote, which is great. And then if you're wondering kind of what the architecture looks like when you hook up SDK into your app, this is a like nifty little diagram. So on your front end, you have your clients working on the app. That's where the people are. And then they're connecting to your backend. So your front end's connected to your backend. And then your backend is connecting to the SDK. So that's where the conversation's happening between your backend and then the SDK itself. And the data will flow back up to the front end. And then that's how everything flows when you build with SDK.
So kind of that standard server architecture
Yeah.
you think about. So if you are especially bringing your own key and your own models, you don't want to shove them inside of here. It's really cool. Or for example, like how I ship a lot of my applications with the SDK is like I build like developer tools. So I expect that they like have the CLI installed or are logged in automatically, but you have that flexibility. And the interesting part here is like the different use cases. And when you think about this like dream it, build it, ship it, a lot of people say, well, hey, like maybe I'm building with Foundry, for example, right? Or I'm building with Bedrock, or I'm building with other, you know, hosted models. Like, how do I choose, right? Am I choosing Copilot SDK versus Foundry? Like, what's going on there? Well, I think about the Copilot SDK is like if you need that full agentic harness, if you're sort of in this ecosystem, if you're building smaller tools, building it into your applications, compared to saying, hey, listen, I'm going to connect up and I want to connect to this specific model, this fine tune. Like I want that full end to end where I'm doing the hill climbing, I'm doing this power, the scoping, everything like that, like at a very large scale, like production consumer application. And you can still do that with the Copilot SDK because you can bring your own key, bring your own models. But there's going to be different use cases for like going to full Foundry, for example, versus going with Copilot SDK. I think it's like very developer focused pulling this into my application. So we want to show a little bit more of things that we built in general. I'm going to show something that I actually have. This is the repo. It's on my GitHub. It's called the podcast metadata generator. So if you just search for that, this is where this demo lives, all the code. I think I have it in the slide. But this application I built because I wanted to specifically build an actual podcast metadata application for myself. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this out. And I'm going to do cd dot dot. cd dot dot, cd source. Here we go, cd Blazor. I'm gonna do .NET run. Cool. So a lot of what I do when I am building and shipping things is often I have like a transcript. So here's like a transcript file, and if I save that onto, I don't know, like my say desktop, perfect transcript, cool. I often have this. So what I built for myself, oh, it's cool. It just runs inside of VS Code. Perfect. Is this Blazor application, which is a basically podcast metadata generator. And what this is going to do is it's going to like start the Copilot. Oh, maybe it doesn't work in. Let me open an external browser. That should work. Might be sandboxed inside of the thing. Perfect. It is. So here, I basically have created a client-server relationship where the server is my machine in this case, where the CLI is running, and I have my Blazor application that's connecting to my server in here. So I have access to the CLI, and what I'm able to do is have like the same exact settings. So I've created a very custom user interface here. So I have all the different models that I have access to there. So here's a haiku, for example. I'm able to really specify my different information and then generate. So here, for example, I can select my, oh, I actually have a real transcript. That's cool. But I'm going to go here, click on transcript, open it up. And now I've created this beautiful UI. And then when I click generate metadata, it's going to go off and it's going to call into the SDK to come up with catchy episode titles, create short descriptions, create YouTube chapters for me automatically, like all directly from the browser, which is really, really cool. And it's going to take that transcript, leverage the Copilot SDK and the models that I selected, and then generate them all here for me. So this is the one that I had recently, I guess from we just complained about IMAX. So that's cool in general. And then now this is going to generate this short description for me, a long description, and then it's going to go off and enable me to export this all in real time, which is really cool. Now I can run this locally on my machine. I could deploy this website if I wanted to. The other thing, because I know Kayla loves a good terminal, is I took and I shipped this to NuGet. So if I do DNX and I say podcast metadata generator, this is a NuGet package with my application that I pulled in. Look at this, beautiful, right? I have settings. I can change different models. I can have generation settings, a bunch of stuff here. I can load a transcript. I can, I'm going to paste in a file path. Why not? Let's just go to my desktop and just put that in there. Boom, bam, right? And then I can give it different information, generate all the metadata. It initializes Copilot. It generates all that stuff directly into this. And I can immediately, with one click, export it right away, which is absolutely crazy at the end of the day. So this is now going to use the models. It's on my machine. It's doing the thing. And I can actually get the experience that I want here. So I get this beautiful GUI if I want to, right? You can ship it how you want. Export it, one click, boom, good to go. Sure enough, there we go. Oh, it's very, the death of analog film projection. No, it's not a lie. So it's there. We're having this debate of trying to find a real IMAX that could do 70 millimeter. They just don't really exist very much anymore. Frank went to the Pacific Science Center and then he like turned and was like, that's a digital projector. And then he left. He like walked out. I was like, that's a little aggressive. He's like, this is not how Christopher Nolan wants me to experience this. And then he left. I was like, wow, he got his money back. So that was cool. Anyway, so it does this automatically, which is nice, right? So you can build these experiences and power this here. The other thing is the GitHub Copilot SDK is just an SDK that's available anywhere. And what's really cool maybe about like the GitHub Copilot app, for example, here, is that you can build these interactive surfaces inside the Copilot app to kind of do anything. I build stuff to see my GitHub actions. I do deployment mechanisms. I do a bunch of other stuff. I actually took from the VS Code Insiders podcast, our analytics, and I built a canvas. So a canvas is like a two-way communication where the agent session can call into the canvas, it can interact with it, it can start new sessions, it can update things, it can do a bunch of things. Like for example, I have this James Hub. The James Hub looks at all of my repos and it helps me analyze the work I should be doing today, the current sessions automatically. I can kick off a session for the workshop, I can jump to the session. I can click on my work explorer. It knows everything about me. I can view and I can act on it. And I can look at the description. I can start a plan mode, an implementation, a cloud session. And you can just use a /create canvas and you can create these canvases, ship them in your repo, for example. So what I did is I said, well, I'm often actually using the Copilot app to think about new ideas for VS Code episodes, which is kind of interesting. So I built this canvas. I fed in an Excel spreadsheet of all of our data and the RSS feed. And I said, well, what if I just use the Copilot SDK, which is built in here, to analyze it? And you can see it's actually analyzing in an isolated session using the Copilot SDK inside the Copilot app all of my episode information, and then it's doing a performance analysis for me in real time. We'll see how fast it's doing it. Depends. There's a lot of things happening on my machine, but it's spinning up inside of this, right? So these new different ideas that we may have here, so we can see all the podcast generation, and I wanted to give performance insight. So let's see if it's going to do it. Still analyzing. I don't know what model it picks, so we'll see. I could have asked it to show me the models that are there, but hopefully it picks it up. I have faith in you. You can do it. In general, let's see. Spinning. It's doing something.
I know, it's analyzing.
It's analyzing.
Yeah.
I did tell it's like analyze all of the things, all in real time, which is good. So hopefully, there we go, perfect. So there you go. So what's working? So this is cool. I was like, here's what's working: agent-centric episodes. Here's the episodes. You know, YouTube is swing variable, so it's analyzing this data. It's hyper contextual. It's apps for me on demand. Title and packaging angles. Maybe try this. Maybe try that. Catalog gap. I had to do this for me too. I said, what if you just like pulled like all of the VS Code releases and then came up with like episode information for me, right? Now, this could live outside the Copilot app. This could be anywhere, right? It doesn't really matter, but I was just having fun. And I was like, yeah, just go take everything, like all the information from the last 5 VS Code like episodes, and then go and generate a bunch of episode information for me, knowing what we've already done. And then it will go and like give us this information, right? Which is really, really cool automatically. And then I was like, what if you just like, I don't know, clicked on an episode, and then what if it pulled down the transcript? What if then if I had it analyze the transcript, right? I could just build all these experiences all in one, because I can literally build anything that I may want. It's going to now analyze this fully, which is so cool. Now, on top of all of this, I also love Tiny Tooltown, but if you go to Tiny Tooltown and you submit here, what's really cool about this is Scott lets me contribute, so that's very nice of him. But we actually have a Tiny Tool Submitter CLI because I love the terminal so much.
Right.
And what I did is I used the Copilot SDK and I built a tiny tool in JavaScript and in C# that analyzes your repo and then submits it. Because who wants to fill out, look, I got to submit a tool. I got to fill out a form. What? That doesn't make any sense. So what I also built was like, well, I built all my stuff inside of the Copilot app. What if I built a canvas that could analyze my repo? And then what if I also use the Copilot SDK to analyze the repo, analyze my README, and then generate options for the description automatically? Now, what's really neat about this experience is that this is going to use the Copilot SDK embedded to give me this information. But then on top of it, look at it's beautiful, like amazing. But then it analyzes the repo, and I can actually start an improvement session. So this is where canvases get cool. This has nothing to do with the SDK, but this is actually going to go and talk back to the GitHub Copilot app and create a session to make this repo Tiny Tooltown ready automatically, right? So I can build these really, really cool experiences out of the box. So that's some of the stuff that I've been building. I know, Kayla, you've been building some stuff too. Ugh. HDMI cable.
HDMI. USB-C.
Bam.
Over here.
Good luck.
Thank you. Come on. Let's see.
Bloop.
I know I might have to.
There you go.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
So I'm not podcasting, unfortunately.
Not yet.
Not yet. But in my time working on Terminal, I also was on Power Toys for a long time. And Power Toys, how many people have heard of Power Toys? Yes, my people. Heck yeah. Woo! So PowerToys is an extremely popular GitHub repo. Everything's open source in PowerToys. And we would get these issues where it just says something went wrong. I don't know what happened. Here's a log file. I'm like, okay, great. I don't know what to do with that. So I made a log analyzer with Copilot SDK where you can just drop in a log file and then it's going to analyze what's going on in the log file. And then I also want it to cross-reference the repo itself to see if there's any duplicate issues that could be related to what's happening in this log file. Because normally when we get log files, you have to like scan it visually to see when something crashed or if an error came up or like when the error code finally hit. But it's usually like this thing went well, this thing went well, and then it's thousands of lines long and it takes forever. So this is built, it's using SDK in the back end, and it's just gonna run that analysis for me. And then it's gonna give me some patterns that it might find across different events in the log file, any anomalies that comes up, and then any potential root causes. And then it's also searching the GitHub repo to see if there's any dupes where I could just close this issue out because there are thousands of issues in the GitHub repo and it's really hard to manage all of that. Um, so this analysis does take a little bit of time. So I ran it over here on this tab as well, just to move things along. So it found there's a WPF crash caused by a null type, and that's just the summary, but then I can jump into findings and find some of the root causes, any of these anomalies that we talked about, and then patterns as well. And then it looked and found some GitHub issues. This null reference exception is everywhere in her repo. I recognize this immediately, and then I'm like, oh yeah, it's this issue number, and I could just do back to it. It's this one, if you're wondering, this com exception. But then I can just easily make sure that the issue that it's pointing at is actually duplicate, and then I can go and close this issue really quickly. And this only took a few minutes because I'm not scanning through the log file by hand. So that's my SDK app. I don't know, I like it a lot. It's helped saves a lot of time when it comes to looking at those.
What I really think about is we're able to create these apps almost on demand, right? Anybody is. Now we're able to create apps on demand that are hyper intelligent, powered by the same thing that has enabled us to build those applications and have these unique, experiences. Now, can any AI tool, if you open up like ChatGPT or Claude or Copilot or GitHub Copilot, you drug this file in and you told it the same prompt, like, could it just do it? Probably, right? Pretty smart. You can give it the tool access and all these things. In this case, though, we are crafting our own experiences for ourselves, right? Being able to understand, I am creating a log analyzer tool. Kayla understands what it takes to analyze a tool. She understands the repo. She understands what's in there. She can create an experience for herself, right? Same thing with me. I'm a podcaster. I want to easily be able to generate YouTube chapters, make them easily copy and pasteable, exportable. I know exactly how I want it to be, and I want to easily access that and never have to copy and paste prompts over and over and over and over again, right? I'll just go in, do the thing, craft the UI for myself, and infuse an application with a little bit of AI, or create an entire experience in this case, leveraging this and more tools too, because they're even pulling in GitHub APIs and other things like this, because it is just your app spiced up with a little bit of GitHub Copilot.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Was there anything else we were going to show for apps?
I don't think so, but I have the deck.
Wow, you have the deck.
So we can, hold on.
Like
Here we go.
slides.
Look at this.
Yes, there's tons of great resources available for the Copilot SDK. One, the SDK repo is fully open source, so you can go and check it out. There's a bunch of best practices. We have beginner's guides on Awesome Copilot, which is an awesome website. There's also a great session at Build from the team that builds the SDK. Steve Sanderson and Patrick gave a talk on it. They go super deep into real crazy details. There's the getting started documents. And if you're really, really interested in like, what does it look like to deploy this at an enterprise scale in a multi-tenant server application that's not just only using like GitHub Auth and the GitHub CLI locally, then you can take a look at the SDK server sample, which is a very large multi-tenant server sample back and forth for you. So there's a lot of great resources out there. And again, this thing is extremely battle tested, used every single day in all of our products, and continues to add new features based on how AI and agentic tooling continue to evolve. So thank you. Go try the SDK today.